Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining me again on this series of podcasts where we're speaking to incredible people who are just doing amazing work for animals out in the community. Now, with the advent of COVID and all the lockdowns and everything that we've been going through, the problems for animals haven't ceased. In fact, in some instances, they've just continued to go on or they've become even worse. So what we're talking about today is a group that I was really happy pre-COVID to go out and meet with and see some of the incredible work that they were doing around rescuing horses, and that's Project Hope. And today I'm chatting with Angela, the president of Project Hope Horse Welfare. So Project Hope Horse began approximately 50 years ago, back in 1973, when Val Collingwood wrote into Rider magazine about the number of neglected horses in Australia and a way to help them. Now, her idea was to coordinate the rescue and rehabilitation of horses subjected to maltreatment or abuse. Val's letter resonated with Rider's readers, and the scheme was organised with Val leading the charge. The scheme took off, and in 1993 became a registered charity with the name Project Hope Horse Welfare Victoria. Today, Project Hope is dedicated to rescuing, rehabilitating and rehoming neglected or abused horses across Victoria. And sadly, the need for this vital organisation is stronger than ever. But welcome, Angela. How have you and Project Hope Horse been going through this really challenging year?
It has been challenging, certainly a lot of stress, starting with coming out of a drought, the fires, and then into COVID. No doubt we've all endured a lot with this pandemic that ripples through into the horse world, and particularly affecting people who have lost their jobs, and that mental health impact for those who have horses on their properties away from their residence is another problem. And increasingly so we found this year with the weather patterns bringing on new challenges, as well as COVID causing the ripples that magnify everything. So yeah, it's been a very busy year. But I think we're keeping on top of more regular reports, more than our normal regular reports. We're keeping on top of that as much as we can, with financial support and good people through our problem solving with horse owners to maintain good horse care practices.
Fantastic. And look, I did give as you would have heard, a brief summary, in my opinion, of the role of Project Hope Horse. But I'd love if you can to explain to our listeners in some more detail, just a bit more about the work that you do, and maybe give an example of a typical sort of rescue and rehab, that sort of thing, and where things go from there, and the role that the organisation plays in improving horse welfare overall.
Yes. Well, we're membership driven, with 100% volunteer people, and we provide a place for people to report a horse to that they're concerned about, where they can go to talk to someone about a horse that is not in a good place, or whether it be good conditions or abandoned, different things. We train our horse representatives to visit properties, to objectively gather information about the situation. So once it's reported to us, we need to, see for ourselves. And each case is individual, and we work there to improve the outcomes for the horses. This is in various ways and may include either advice, care, some financial support of people to keep their own horses in correct ways. This has been sort of called upon more, through the drought. There was a lack of feed, and the cost of feed was huge. Then there was the fires. With the fires, it just seemed to blur into COVID. And people, still struggling getting feed and stuff for the horses after the fires, and everything just rippled into COVID. And we sort of have helped a lot of people both members. There's been some members, our own members, that have struggled, and we've helped them, and we've reached out to general public as much as we can. We've had to keep it all going with much more enthusiasm, I suppose, even though it's hard to be enthusiastic sometimes.
Yeah. Look, and
situations, of course, the RSPCA have been involved into.
Well, and that sort of feeds into my next question, really. Look, as you would know, horses are one of the most commonly reported animals for neglect in Victoria. Why do you believe that we see so many cases? And you alluded to a part of it there, I think. From what your experience is, what do you believe is contributing to that? I mean, I know you've just spoken about the fact that, in some instances, that's because people are actually struggling financially. It's not that they necessarily don't care for the animals themselves, but they might be struggling, and that, to me, that's one of the great things that Project Hope does, is reaching out to those people and being able to give them assistance. But I guess there's a whole range of other things that people wouldn't know about that horses are going through. Can you just give us a bit of an insight as to, what are the sort of things that you come across?
Yes, well, horses, they live a long time, which is probably double cats and dogs. Horses live to their 30s, 40s even, and there's been a few that have lived over the 40 mark. Cats and dogs, you've got a 10, 15, 20 would be unusual. People sometimes forget, or their lives change. They forget how long their horse is going to live. And their lives change through that period of time because it's a long area, and people get old. People move off their properties into some into care themselves. Others find themselves that they haven't got a job, or they retire. They haven't got the physical capability to look after a large animal. They're large. They're not easy to sort of get a friend to look after. If you've got a bit of a problem, you can't just say, I'll bring my horse around to your backyard. It's the size, I suppose. It is a big driver in what we see of horses and their age that they live for. And there's also knowledge of people and how much it takes to look after a horse.
Yeah, it's not as though you can invite them in the back door and have them sleep on the couch, is it?
No, no. And there's a limit to how many you can fit into your paddock or your backyard, yes.
Yeah. Look, and look, I know that education and advocacy is also a really important part of the work that you do. Can you tell us about the work that you do around community education and advocacy, and why that plays such a really important role in horse welfare?
The work covers both education and advocacy. It's important. We assess and visit each horse report as an individual episode, explaining to people how to care for their horse and other concerns. Some people have lower expectation of horse care or that sort of thing. So to explain the better way of doing things so that they can step up and do the right thing for their horse. So education is huge. As much, and we provide as much support as we reasonably can do so to help them provide for their horses. Beyond that, we advocate for horse welfare at every possible opportunity that comes our way. We've worked with the RSPCA over many years and have a seat at the Australian Horse Industry Council, liaising with Racing Victoria, Breeders Association, the Donkey Society too, we've liaised with recently, and some farm animal rescue groups too, because we find the more people that you can get out there helping the horses and educated as to the needs of horses and eyes open, and that is all extra. So we're particularly excited about things like a microchip database.
Okay.
We'll be very much involved in that. Hopefully it can happen. It's been talked about for many years, similar to dogs and cats, but a little bit, it'll be different because it won't be local laws. As in dogs and cats, you register with your council. So it's getting talked about for a long time. We do hope that gets off the ground. It is so important because we can trace horses where they come from. Just to know their age, it's a really good thing to be able to know their age, where they've come from, so that you can plan how they should progress in the future.
When I gather that it would also give you then access to relevant health details of that particular horse as well. If they've got a history of something in particular, that then you're right, yeah, then you can plan to assist with that health issue in the future. And that's, I think you've hit a really important point in this microchip system that I think not many people would really be aware of. And even though horse welfare is really on the forefront of a lot of Victorians' minds, that's an aspect I don't think they would really have thought much about. Look, to me personally, these guys have always held a bit of a soft spot in my heart. You know, I've always wanted to have a horse or 10,000, but circumstances have never permitted. You know, and I'm realistic enough to know that I can't pop a horse in my backyard in suburban Torquay, and therefore I shouldn't. And that's what I think. A lot of that education that you're talking about is that people understanding the needs of these animals and the commitment that's required to look after them properly, so that the relationship is a great relationship for both the human being and the animal as well, because that's really what it should be, isn't it? That people and the animals have this great relationship together, because that's the affinity that we feel with these animals, and we have for many thousands of years. That's really important to me. I know that's really important to a lot of other people. And that's why this year I've asked the government to allocate some money in this year's state budget to support the vital work of Project Hope. Now, clearly we won't know if that's been accepted or not. We wait with bated breath until budget night and see what happens when they hand the papers down. But, you know, we sit around with our fingers crossed and our toes crossed and all that sort of thing. Look, Angela, what would money in the state budget mean for Project Hope and improving horse welfare right throughout Victoria? What would that allow you to do?
Well, firstly, it would provide financial security for the horses we rescue, and it'll give us an opportunity to work further across the state, raising a profile of horse welfare, with more stakeholders, talking to pony clubs and all the different groups and organisations that we want to reach out to. So it's getting the word out there, providing education. We've got an online for our reps, our rep training is we've got a Zoom training program happening. We've looked at online as well, but haven't been able to get that off the ground due to costs and other things. So that would certainly give us more opportunity to train horse reps. They're the ones that go out and check out the reports and liaise with the public and the horse owners, liaise with pony clubs and other groups, RSPCA, Breeders Association. So to train more representatives mean we can do more and bring more diplomacy to help horses. And it'll give us an opportunity to drive horse welfare locally, doing our grassroots program that we started with great enthusiasm before COVID. It has gone on the shelf a little bit because we can't go out into the public and groups and meet, but it has also meant that COVID's meant that we've found other ways of doing things, and we will probably use a lot of these, like Zoom and all those things, and catching up, and the fact that we can do the rep training by Zoom. It'll happen more. So yeah, that would be what we did. Certainly use that support, that financial support for horses. It all goes to the horses because of 100% volunteers.
And I think that's the important point to make here too, because a lot of people, I think, when for those of us that are political tragics like myself, we understand exactly what money allocated in a state budget means for different organisations and things, because we see what that work does on the ground. Others who are not so inclined might look at it and go, oh, well, that's just a government allocating money and it doesn't really mean anything to me. Well, they can take comfort from the fact that this money, if we're successful, will do exactly that. Every single program that you've spoken about, which is all there to help these wonderful animals. And that really is what they should understand about, when these sorts of things get handed down, and I hope they do. And look, I've just got one final question, Angela, if you would. If you could leave our listeners with one thought today, what would it be?
Think what you can do for horses rather than what horses can do for you, because that's my secret to happiness. It is truly wonderful to see these animals in a happy, well cared for situation. And you can do that simply by becoming a member. It's only for Project Hope, Horse Welfare Victoria, to become a member. It costs you $45 a year. You're a member of an amazing group, and your $45 goes to help the horses. And so I invite everyone along to enjoy helping horses.
Fantastic. Great plug, and great work channeling JFK there as well. It's really well done. Look, thanks so much for your time today, Angela, and for the incredible work that you and Project Hope do for these wonderful horses, donkeys, all these wonderful animals that you're doing this great work for. And it was wonderful to come out and see you guys when I did at the time. That was pre-lockdown and all those sorts of things. And look, I look forward to, as I say, fingers crossed we can get this money for you in the budget. And if we're successful, I look forward to coming out and seeing you all again. Cheers.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Andy. It's been wonderful.
See you later.
Bye.